Hey everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. Justin is giving me kinky eyebrow winks. It's throwing me off a little bit, but this is Derek Thorne.
Jarza Arlong here, the creepy wink guy.
How's it going, man?
It's going okay. Another Sunday. This weekend feels like it's taking forever to be over with, and I'm okay with that.
I agree. We've had a pretty busy weekend. We went to the Lumineers concert Friday night, and then me and my wife decided to go to a Twins baseball game yesterday. Yesterday just felt like Sunday for whatever reason, so I'm kind of glad that it wasn't.
Yeah.
But
how was the games?
We lost 9-3. But
Are the Twins doing well this year or not really?
I don't know. We went to, I think the last time I went to a Twins game was on our first wedding anniversary, which is like it's like in a week and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
And that was 6 years ago. So I haven't followed baseball at all. So I don't know I'm not sure how good the Twins have been doing. Played the Washington Nationals and they showed the standings and they were last in their division and they spanked us around pretty good. So
oh wow,
it was a good night. It was nice out, and I mean we had pretty good seats. It was a good time.
Hell yeah, dude! Sounds like a good time. I don't remember. I think I went to one baseball game in my entire life, and I haven't been back since.
Was that at the Metrodome, or have you been at Target Field?
I've never been to Target Field, so I think it was at the Metrodome.
Oh well, you should go to Target Field because it is nice.
I'm sure I'll get there eventually. Maybe I'll take my mom there. She's a big Twins fan.
So, oh yeah,
yeah.
And then the concert was really good Friday night. A band from Minnesota opened up for the Lumineers called Hippocampus. I'd never heard of them, but they're fun. But that kind of leads me into the bullshit I have planned for you, Justin.
I'm
going to participate in this one too.
Oh, okay, nice. Okay.
Maybe we're going to alternate back and forth here, but I thought it would be fun if we made a Malazan band.
Ooh, okay, all right.
Yeah. So I'm kind of hoping maybe we don't duplicate on characters, but if we do, we do. I guess maybe we just try not to use them for the same band member.
And are we doing like a five-piece band, 4-piece band?
I don't, whatever you want.
Okay.
I didn't really set a number to it, but if you want to go first.
Oh, I need like a minute to think about this. You can't just spitball. Or at least giving me some forewarning, so then I could have been prepared, but
that's the fun part. I don't want you to. I kind of want you to spitball it. So all right, I guess I'll go first then.
Jesus, all right. Okay, all right. Well,
that was fun.
Yeah. So do we want to do a recap? So it looks like Burning Bridges is Burn as the drum, Mach the third as bass, violin is Stony Manakis, Rake on lead guitar, and Lady Envy as the lead vocals. Does that sound right?
I think so, yeah.
And then Undead Magic, we've got drums, Mappo. On bass, we've got Tool, Penny and Sear rocking the keys, and then Boshaline and Corporal Broach on lead and rhythm guitar, and Corlat on the haunting vocals.
Nice. That was fun.
Yeah. That was
something.
definitely interesting.
Yeah. No, that's out of the way. Now we can get to the real stuff.
Right. Okay, well, on to our wonderful patrons. We've got Jan the Picker, Luciana Intrigan, Brian the Topological, Damien Facing the Rock, Nate Fiddle Me This, Shield Anvil Dylan, Calvin He Witnessed, Livia the Malazan Potato, Aaron Mott Irregular, Scott the Only, Graceless Passion, Dead Smell, Gestriant, My Own Genesis, Alex the High Mage, Tyler the Great Raven, The Joyful Union, Tony the Watch, and Steve Bottle Cags. Thank you so much, guys. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun doing this and having you guys along for the ride and having our chat going, talking with you guys, just about kind of whatever. So it's definitely a good time. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Chapter 20. Shadow is ever besieged, for that is its nature, whilst darkness devours and light steals, and so no one sees Shadow ever retreat to hidden places, only to return in the wake of the war between dark and light. Observations of the Warrens, Insalan and Nura.
Seems very aligned with our world.
Yes. I would like to preface this chapter by saying there was a lot I did not understand. I think reading it a second time did help as I was summarizing it. I think this is going to be a Derek heavy chapter because I had some pretty long sections, which is fine. I just wish I had a better grasp on some of it. So,
oh, sure.
I feel like I've got enough talking points and stuff, but as always, dude, like, feel free to like jump in or add in whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and this is, well, yeah, my bad for not reading the chapter again. So I guess we'll see what happens when you go through your summaries and see if there's anything that I can recall.
Sounds good, man. All right.
Okay. First section here. The rope had visited the Edur ships, and corpses were strewn about everywhere. Standing at the prow, Cutter watched two things. The birds pick at the flesh of the dead, and Apsalar walking through the bodies, pausing every once in a while to take a better look. Her measured calm gave the Daru chills. He heard that the boat they docked bumping against the bigger ship. They were to travel somewhere to another agent of Shadow. His shoulder was still sore and concluded that fighting with knives was all well and good until one faced an armored man with a sword. He figured that he best get better with using a bow. Fighting revulsion, he scanned the corpses and found a bow. Cutter made his way and picked up the bow's quiver and arrows. The bow was broken, but luckily he had found a pouch on the Edor's hip that had bow and arrow materials. He then proceeded to fix the bow. He tested it out and struggled to keep it taut. He realized that this may be a bit of a challenge to use. Sensing eyes on him, he turned. He saw Apsalar standing near the main mast. Her arms and hands were covered in blood. Cutter asked her what she had been doing. She replied that she has been looking around. Cutter thought to himself that she has been looking inside someone's chest. He replies to her that they should go. Apsalar wondered if he decided where they were to go. Cutter bent down to grab some more arrows, answered that they would find out soon enough. Apsalar announced that the sorcery here was strange. Cutter snapped his head up and asked what she had meant. Apsalar said that she was unsure, as her knowledge of the Warrens came from Cotillion. She states that if the sorcery is Corralled Emerlon, then it is tainted in some way. Necromantically. Life and death sorcery carved directly into the ship, as if warlocks and shoulder women had declared the boat sacred. Cutter said that she made it sound like the ship was some kind of temple. Apsalar said that this was exactly what she meant, which is why the spilling of blood did nothing to violate the sacred ship. She suspected that even Warrens could sink into extreme brutality. Cutter added that this meant that the wielders of a Warren can affect its nature. The Daru added this didn't sound like the violation of something sacred, but rather a disparagement. She glanced around and said out loud, Rashan, Binas, Thir, The Daru followed that thought and said that she thought that all warrens accessible to humans are in fact disparaged elder warrens. She gave a Kanye shrug and said that even blood decays. Cutter frowned at that, as he didn't know what to make of that comment, decided to not ask for an elaboration. They approached the rail, and Apsalar climbed down to their small boat. Cutter took one last look around and paused. In the distance, on the shore of Driftavali, stood a lone figure, leaning on a two-handed sword. Cutter deduced that it was Traveler. He was also starting to see that there were others seated around him, a half-dozen Malazans in the tree, and in the trees behind the Malazans were some Taistandi. The scene gave Cutter the chills, and he looked away. As he got in the small boat, Apsalar guessed that they were looking to steal the Edur ship, the Droman. They had just departed. Cutter asked about protecting the throne. Apsalar said that there are demons of shadow on the island now, as it seemed like Cutter's patron god had decided to play a more active role in defending its secret. He sarcastically thanks Apsalar for her comment about being his patron's god. He snides back in his head that his patron god had cupped her in his hands, killer's hands. Cutter asked why Cotillion couldn't just take it back to the Shadow Realm. Apsalar said that he could if he would, but Animander has used sorcery to bind the throne in its place, and it cannot be moved. Cutter said it was easy then. Shadowthrone just needed to come to Driftavali and sit his scrawny ass on the throne. He did not like the smile she gave in answer to his question. In response, she said that if he did this, it would ensure that no one else could claim its power or position of High King House Shadow, unless someone were to kill Shadowthrone first. A god of courage and unassailable powers might well plant his scrawny ass on the throne to end the argument once and for all. But Shadowthrone did just that once before, as Emperor Kellenvet. Crocus wondered as to what. Apsalar explains that he claimed the first throne, the throne of the Amass. She goes on to explain that it was fortunate that now as Shadowthrone, he has shown little in making use of his role as Emperor of the Talani Mass. Cutter chimes in to say that this makes sense, because why cause unneeded competition? If he uses it, it would cause others to notice. Cutter states that this seems clever and not cowardly. She studied him for a moment and said that she had not thought of that. She stated that it seemed that Shadowthrone has absorbed well his early residence in the Dead House, more so than Cotillion. Cutter said that this was an Azath tactic. Denying the first throne served to disarm. Giving the chance he would sit on every throne possible and simply do nothing. Apsalar's eyes widened upon hearing this. He frowned at her expression and thought to himself that he was only joking, and Shadowthrone could never pull it off. Cutter said that all the games of the gods. Apsalar finished the sentence and said that the games would stop. She asked him if he had stumbled upon the truth. Has he just predicted Shadowthrone's huge scheme? Cutter said only if Shadowthrone were mad, because he'd never get close to accomplishing that. Apsalar leaned back on the tiller and said that for 2 years, Dancer and Celeven had vanished, left the Empire for Surly to rule. She states that her memory is vague during that time, but she confirmed that both men were changed by what had happened to them during that time, unable to go back. Not just the play for the Shadow Realm, but other things happened, and for those 2 years, they were not in this realm. Cutter asked where they had been. She said she couldn't answer that question, but knows they were on a trail that wound through the Warrens, and to the realms that even the known Warrens do not reach. Cutter asked what type of trail, or whose. Apsalar guessed that it had something to do with the houses of the Azath. Apsalar said that they knew that Surly was waiting for them, knew what she had planned, and they returned nonetheless. Cutter said that this made no sense. Apsalar rebutted that unless the pair wanted Surly to do what she did, being that they weren't assassinated, so the question becomes, what did the entire mess achieve? Cutter said that this was a rhetorical question. Apsalar said no, not rhetorical. Cutter said that maybe they needed to ask a question a different way. What if Kellanvet and Dancer had secured the Imperial throne after securing the Shadowthrone? Well, they would have an empire spanning 2 warrens and an empire of shadow. Cutter said that none of the gods would go for that. Ascendants of all kind would have assailed the empire. Apsalar chimed in and said that neither of one of them would be able to fight against that. They haven't even consolidated their claim on the Shadow Realm yet. Cutter picks up where she left off and states that they staged their deaths and kept their identity a secret for as long as possible. They would continue to work on their schemes, but that all seems a bit diabolical. Cutter said that he was more confused than ever. Apsalar asked why he was confused. Cotillion had recruited the Daru to see the true throne of Shadow. The outcome could not be more advantageous for Shadowthrone. Darist is dead, the sword vengeance removed, and in the hands of a dark, fated traveler, or wanderer. She said that it was true. It involved him more than he wanted to. Cutter said it was because the hound, Blind, was stopped in her tracks. Apsalar asked what he meant. Cutter informs her that he had summoned Blind, but one of the Edur mages made her cower in fear. Apsalar said that Cotillion has learned another vital fact, and that was that the Edur were the hound's original masters. They would have continued had the sky suddenly darkened, shadows rising up to swallow them, then a thunderous crash.
This was confusing. There's a lot there. And even like one thing I remember feeling like when I read this was the way Apsalar was talking. It felt unusual for her to speak the way she did. I don't really know how to describe it other than that. It just felt odd.
Like it wasn't her talking?
It just didn't feel like her character.
Oh, because she's so quiet and to herself, or?
It just seemed weird to me.
I think it's one of those things where Apsalar is just comfortable with Crocus, or Cutter, excuse me. So, like, she's able to reveal her thoughts to him. I don't know.
It could be.
You know, but like to everybody else, she's probably just this quiet, laid back girl, you know, very morose. Yeah.
It's just maybe just because she talked more than maybe we're used to. There's more back and forth conversation, I guess.
Yeah, that's very true. It's kind of an info dumpy section. I think it's strategic at this point. I think that he's slowly adding more to the Kellanvet and Dancer background, right? I'm starting to feel like, you know, he's very choosy in what he decides to reveal to us. And I think that Kellanvet and Dancer's story will be prominently told through Esselmont's books, the novels. I think that is what, or even the Path to Ascendancy prologue or prequel is what I imagine will get the actual story on a lot of these things.
Possible. I have no idea right now.
It kind of seems like, as far as like anything to do with the Malazan Empire, he just kind of dusts over. And that's a bad term, but it's purposeful.
Gotcha. Well, what else do you have here? What do you got for talking points?
I've got quite a few. At the very beginning, when it's explaining that the pair were to travel to another agent of Shadow, at this point in the book, I had immediately thought of Poost. So it was kind of cool to see a reunion with these three as they knew each other from the events of Deadhouse Gates. So a little bit of a spoiler to the very end of the chapter, but I don't really think or consider it a huge spoiler, but
No, I wouldn't say so. But I guess when I read it, I was like trying to think of who it would be. I did not think of Poost.
I just from their last chapter, it made it seem like they were supposed to go to Raraku. So I'm like, oh, well, the only other agent of Shadow that we know of there is Poost.
I think you're just better at that deductive stuff than I am.
I think we both have our moments of it. I think that the section confused the shit out of me too. So while I was summarizing, I took my time and really tried to understand what it was that was being told to me. In their conversation, Apsalar is kind of saying like, hey, this Caral Emerlon seems strange. Cutter's like, well, what's so strange about it? And she's saying that the Caral Emerlon is tainted in some way. And then she says in a one-word sentence, necromantically. And I'm wondering, is this suggesting that Caral Emerlon was brought back from the dead in some way?
I have no idea, man. Maybe.
I mean, that's kind of what it suggests, though, right? Like, but then there's this whole like shattered piece, right? Like when I hear of something breaking into a million pieces, is that dead? Did all those pieces come back to life, or is it just like one fragment? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many itty bitty details, and I think that again, in classic Erickson style, he's revealing things without giving it away yet. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. So
Sure.
he's giving us just enough to hang on, but not quite complete the picture.
Gotcha.
And then there's this part where they're talking about the human warrens are more or less not really a violation of something sacred, but more disparagement or abuse, right? And I think what's interesting, and I believe it's a little bit of a big deal, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to try to understand this. He uses the word denigration, which means the action of unfairly criticizing someone or something, which kind of confused me. And I'm not an English teacher, or really, you know, I didn't pay attention in high school to English class, but I believe that that word is being used as a noun, which that meaning is this: the action of unfairly criticizing someone or something. Now that makes more sense in regards to what they are talking about. To make sense of it, essentially what Cutter and Apsalar are talking about is the abuse or disparagement of an elder warren, but not by humans, is my guess. When a warren is shattered, that makes me think denigration. That is when the birth of human warrens are born. That's when humans can take a hold of that power. So this tells me, following Apsalar's thought about Rashan, Minas, Thir, is that these are human warrens of elder, which means that the elder warrens of light, shadow, darkness have been shattered. But these human warrens, to have a throne or a gate or house, right? It's kind of like the Teniscowry of warrens. Anarchy, everyone does their own thing with it. All in all, to say that the human warrens come from an abused and neglected elder warren. So I think that that's kind of how human warrens are formed, is that there's some type of mistreatment within the elder warren's occupants. So if you take that logic and you apply that to like the sea, you apply that to I know Quickman uses like one to like walk through the air or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. All of the warrens that the humans have accessible to them is because the elder warren of that was abused. It was neglected. It was not taken care of, broken, fighting. You know what I mean? So that's why I think it's kind of a big deal, is because it essentially explains how human warrens are made, at least my interpretation.
I don't think there's anything I could add to that. And I think on a basic level, I kind of understood that the human warrens came from these elder warrens somehow.
Oh, for sure. On a basic level, yeah. I mean, there's definitely that, like, oh, you wonder how they're linked. But I think that this is kind of explaining in detail how they're formed and how they're created, right? So I would imagine that there very well could exist in this universe an elder warren that is not been neglected, right? So therefore, there is no human warren counterpart, which means that humans can't access that, right?
Yet.
Yet, right? And that's kind of what I think potentially they're saying about Kellenved and Dancer's 2-year hiatus, is that they went to the realms that even current warrens couldn't access.
All right.
But It sounds logical. It sounds like it makes sense. Do you think that that is a good definition of what he was trying to explain to us?
Dude, it was like way over my head, so I'll say yes.
Well, if you read the chapter again, just, I guess, keep it in mind as you're going through it. Like that word, denigration, because I didn't know what that was. And so it definitely threw me off as to what they were talking about.
I mean, there's definitely words that I look up.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think I did on that one, but I probably also didn't have a great understanding of what the word really meant. But it also, I guess I wasn't hung up on it. And I'm
That's
not
fair.
saying like you're hung up on it, but I just like, I think I understood it on a very basic level, and I wasn't willing to dig too much deeper, I guess. So I mean,
No,
I'm glad you had it.
yeah, I think that it was a context clue. Like it was a word that you needed to define in order to understand everything that came before and after.
Sure.
Yeah. It was kind of key to unlocking that thought. Yeah, I guess this other part where she's talking about, or they're talking about, to make sure that no one else could claim power or position of High King House Shadow. From what I understand is that the throne hasn't been sat on. Thus, no one is able to claim its power. But the glossary in the book says that Amanus is the King of Shadow. Is that just because he's the highest player to exist in the realm? Or even though he hasn't sat on the throne, is that what penultimate essentially means? Is that he's like the second highest?
Maybe this would be another good question to bookmark that we could ask Mr. Erickson if we get to talk to him again.
All right.
Make a note of that for sure.
And maybe we'll get an answer to it
Yeah.
as we go on, but I'm going to assume that it has something to do with. Okay, and then, there's this part where Apsalar explains that the first throne, the throne of the mass, was claimed by Kellenved. We knew this, right? I think that it's just one of those things that we forgot about. But this would explain how he commanded the Logros mass to siege 7 cities before he disappeared. Remember in Gardens of the Moon where they're talking about the mass came in and like wiped everybody out?
I thought that was just at Aaron.
Yes,
Or
but
maybe
I
it
thought
wasn't
that
Aaron, but I thought it was like one city in particular.
it was Aaron, but I'm pretty sure that he used the amass to conquer 7 cities. And that is the reason why there's a rebellion. They're like he took 7 cities, made it part of his empire. Then he disappeared, right? And so now they're all 7 cities are rebelling. Thus the whole whirlwind Shaikh thing. Lasine sending troops to go take it back.
Okay. I don't remember. I don't remember a lot on that. I just remember that it was like it was a pretty big deal that it happened because it sounded like they slaughtered everybody. Like, I imagine probably women and children too.
Oh, yeah, they were indiscriminate about who they killed.
Right.
Which sounds like the amass. But I don't there's something about this that's like nagging my brain, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Something to do with Kellenved and the amass. And especially this part later on that I'll eventually get to where, they're talking about Kellenved and Dancer staging their deaths. I don't know. Those 3 things just kind of keep like they're tugging at my brain, and I'm not sure what to make of it. But something seems fishy with that. Like everything that is planned, or that everything that 7 Cities is doing, the rebellion was almost initiated by Kellenved in some way. I don't know how to like tie anything together there. It just kind of almost seems like they knew Lasine's plan. So why not just undo everything that they did to get back at her? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Maybe something will be revealed. But yeah, I just thought it was cool that it kind of called back to like a Gardens of the Moon explanation of Emperor Kellenved using or commanding the amass. Like that, I distinctly remember them talking about.
I think you just made the first ever Malazan porn title, Gardens of the Moon.
Gosh. I'm not even trying, y'all. I'm not even trying.
Oh
All
boy.
right. Yeah. Gardens of the Mound. Shit. Okay. All right. If anybody's going to use that, I want copyright. I'm a little bit something on the side there, 10%. And then there's this thought about, or not thought, but she was saying that Shadowthrone has absorbed well his early residence in the dead house. And I'm going to say that he's got some Azath power here too.
This is one of those that, like, I don't know what to make of it.
Okay. I mean, that's what I'm going to go with. Is that maybe because it says Shadowthrone absorbed well his early residence in the dead house more so than Cantilian. So I'm going to go with maybe Amanus or Kellanded was the first one in there. Cantilian was the second one. Cantilian is off doing his schemes while Amanus is just kind of absorbing the power. I don't really know what to make of it, but that's kind of what it seems like based on that.
All right.
And then as they're kind of talking, right, Cutter, the way it seems, kind of stumbles upon potentially a scheme that Kellanded may be doing. And it actually kind of makes sense. But basically, the pair of them are predicting that Shadowthrone's motive would be to occupy every single throne so that nobody else could, and then simply do nothing. All that power, and he would do nothing. No more arguing, no more bickering. Like, nobody could do anything about it because he has all the power.
But do you think it would work?
No.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
That, or I think that, I mean, it would be highly unlikely that he would be successful with everyone because there's probably contention, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, there's always the mystery of finding these first thrones, right? But how does a throne even begin to be created? You know what I mean? Do humans have a throne? Is it only Elder Warrens that have thrones? You know, like, we're missing a little bit of detail here.
I do not have that detail to give you. I don't even have any like thoughts or ideas.
Well, again, we'll just have to ruffo. We'll have to see what happens. But kind of, you know, answering your question, I think that this is a scheme, but do you think that this is maybe something that we'll slowly see Shadowthrone start to do as we move throughout the series? Or do you think it's kind of fluff? They're like hyper suspecting, they're like overthinking Kellandved's intentions here.
I don't think that's what we're going to see. I don't think we'll see him trying to take over each throne. I don't know what we'll see, but I don't think that's going to be it.
I don't think that's the scheme. I think that this is just pure skepticism on their part. Like Cutter said, like kind of this outlandish thing that makes sense, but I don't know. I'm so like confused because it almost kind of makes it seem like Kellandved and Dancer were aware of what Surly was planning, but I almost kind of get this sense that Surly was in on it too. Like this whole war is for nothing, which makes it that much more disgusting because we've read so many lives being destroyed. You know, the Teniscalre, for example, like all for just a staged show. So I would imagine that there has to be something between Kellandved and Dancer Lucine did to piss him off. I don't know. Everything we've read up to this point is them throwing something at her.
Maybe eventually we'll get the other side of that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then my last thought is just this empire spanning two Warrens. Again, them kind of talking about what they're theorizing. And it didn't really occur to me that the Imperial throne was a Warren. But then again, the Imperial Warren is a thing. And I wonder if that's how the throne was created then, when Karul, Nightchill, and Draconis made the Imperial Warren. When they made the Warren, did they make the throne? Or did the throne kind of become of it? So, like, when a Warren is created, is there a throne? whether human or elder.
Not something I thought of either. I have no idea, but maybe.
But
Yes, both.
But does it make sense that this is the reason why they didn't secure these both thrones? Is because it would call attention to the fact that they have power in more than one Warren.
I don't know, because I wonder, like, don't you think, like, if people knew it was claimed, like, you might have some people come after you, but if it's unclaimed, like, you might have, like, everybody coming. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that by keeping it unclaimed, it keeps people looking, and and their attention's not on you.
Sure. Yeah.
The section definitely was confusing. They're theorizing a lot. There's some skepticism in here, but then again, it could be real. This could exactly be Helen Ved's motivation, right? I mean, Apsalar has Cotillion's memories. She has Dancer's memories, but again, there's still, from a perspective of outside looking in, there are definitely things that Helen Ved probably has not told Dancer. So therefore, he hasn't said anything. There can't be a memory for Apsalar to recall.
Yeah. Sorry, man. I don't really don't. I'm just listening. I don't know.
I don't know what to
This
do.
this
Feel
is
like
like the shit that's just all over my head.
Okay.
I'm just
Well,
leaving you hanging here. That's all. I'm sorry.
yeah, I'll get over it. It'll be fine. I'm sure that maybe we're just meant to have this discussion later on when it all makes sense.
This I just felt like it was a challenging chapter to read.
That's fair. It was a challenging chapter to read, especially these first two sections. You're like, what the fuck is going on? So,
Yes.
but outside of that, that was the only thoughts that I had. I'm sure that there was probably more, but again, maybe it's just one of those things where this is a stepping stone into a much larger conversation that will maybe make its way back in somewhere in the future.
We shall see.
Well, with that, I'm ready to move on.
All right. Yeah, this was a fairly long one. The tortoise made its way across the ancient seabed with Trull and Onrack on either side of it. Trull said it was too bad there wasn't two so they could ride in style. Onrack said he thought it would be the same either way. Trull spoke, saying, on this grand journey, nay, this noble quest, in which he finds a certain sympathy. Onrack asked if he missed his kin. Trull said that was too general of a statement. Onrack revised his statement, asking if he needed to get laid. Trull said no. He didn't need to risk his hairline with annoying little kids, or risk his ears for that matter. He tapped the tortoise on the shell and said there was no time to worry about things that weren't going to happen. Singular intent, disconnected from time, from the messy consequences that follow, if only to afflict whatever Lady Tortoise he were to pounce upon. Onrack said he didn't think tortoises were much for pouncing. The act was usually a little more clumsy than that. Trull said, wasn't that the truth? Onrack was about to recount some of his earlier memories, but Trull shut him down immediately. He didn't want to hear about his supple prowess, as he himself was in fact a virgin. So he only had his imagination to go off of. Onrack asked if his people usually waited until marriage. Trull said that was true. Wasn't it the same for the IMS? Onrack said yes, but the custom was disregarded at every opportunity. Also, as he explained before, he had a mate. Trull said who he gave up because he fell in love with another. Onrack said he did not give her up. She was lost. The loss was not solitary. Those types of losses never are. So what he gathers, Trull must be young. Trull said he supposed he was, especially in his current company. Onrack said they should leave the tortoise so they would spare him the reminder. Trull said that was a good idea. They walked faster, and Trull looked back at the tortoise and shouted as it started making a wide circle. Onrack said it had finally spotted them and it's running away. Trull said it's a poor creature since it wouldn't find any fun this night. Onrack said it would eventually judge it safe to continue on. They were only a temporary obstacle. Trull said that was a humbling reminder. Ahead, Onrack could sense subtle indications of the 6 renegade Imus, a scrape or a scruff here and there. They were all damaged to some capacity. The ritual, despite the stoppage of the vow, had left the residual powers as well as something else, a vague hint of chaos, of unknown warrens, or perhaps they weren't unknown, just twisted. Onrack suspected a bonecaster among them. He thought of all the bonecasters among the Logros and which ones would be, quote, lost. He thought Kilava, for sure, as she always has been. Hentos Ilm and Monarch Ochum have both partaken in the hunt. Olar Ethel seeks the other armies of the Imus, for the summons was heard by all. Benasto and Olpan remain with the Logros, and A. Estos was lost here in the last war. He didn't know the fate of Absin Tholai, which left Teneg Ilbai, who the Logros sent to the Kron to help in the later on wars. So it was Absin, Teneg, or A. However, there was no reason to think that it was one of these renegades from the Logros, but since they were here, it did suggest it was them. Also, the caves and weapon caches were not only here, they could be found on every continent. The renegades had come to 7 cities, the very birthplace of the First Empire, in order to recover their weapons, and it was the Logros tasked with holding their homeland. Onrack called to Trull, asking what he knew of the cult of the Nameless Ones. Trull said they were very successful. Onrack didn't understand, and Trull said he had never heard of them. Onrack explained that the Logros commanded that the first throne be removed from the island because the Nameless Ones were close to discovering its location, and that its power could be claimed. The Imus could be made to bow to the first mortal to sit on that seat. Trull surmised that the Logros didn't want one of the Nameless Ones to be that mortal. He asked what terrible purpose drove them. Also, before he answered, to recognize that terrible purpose as dire measure given his kind and Onrack's. Onrack understood and said the Nameless Ones served the Azath houses, and that if a Nameless One priest took over the throne, the Imus would be removed from the world. Trull said in that case, the throne was moved. Onrack said that was correct, to a continent south of 7 cities, where it was found by the mage known as Kellenved, the emperor of the Malazan Empire. Trull said that's who now commands all the Imus. No wonder it was such a powerful empire. They should have taken over the world by now. Onrack said the emperor didn't use the Imus' abilities to their fullest extent, and then he was assassinated, and the new empress does not command them. Trull asked why she didn't just sit on the throne herself. Onrack said she would have if she could have found it. Trull said, so they were free. Onrack said it appeared so, but there were other concerns. Kellenved was a resident of an Azath house for a time. Trull said he didn't know much of these matters, but as he understood it, he, Onrack, or the Imus, feared that Kellenved was either a Nameless One or had contact with them, and if so, why didn't he issue the command they feared? Onrack said they didn't know. Trull followed up and asked how they knew he managed to find the first throne in the first place. Again, Onrack said they didn't know. Trull wanted to know what it all had to do with what they were up to now. Onrack said it was a suspicion based on where the renegades were heading. They were going south. Onrack said if they were kin of the Logros among them, then they would know the location of the throne. Trull asked if there were others of his kind that would come to the same conclusion. Onrack was not sure, but he shared something with the renegades the others of his kind did not. He was not bound to the ritual's vow. This allowed him some free thought. Monarch Ochum and Ibra Golan are hunting, and the mind of a hunter is obsessed with their prey. Onrack took out his sword and jammed it into the ground and took 10 paces away from it. Trull asked what he was doing. He said as long as Trull didn't object, he would wait for Monarch and Ibra. They needed to know what he thought. Trull asked if he thought Monarch would give them the time to explain. and he would feel better about things if Onrack was closer to his sword. Trull found a rock to sit on and asked about what he did in the cave where the Talon ritual was active. What Trull meant was Onrack's battlefield medicine arm he had self-attached. It was obvious it wasn't his own, and Trull figured he wasn't supposed to do that. Onrack said he was right, or would be, if he were still held to the vow. Trull asked if Monarch would be just as understanding. Onrack didn't think so. Trull asked if Onrack had vowed to serve him. What if he didn't want either of them to be at such a risk? Onrack said that was a valid point and postured a question to Trull. These renegades serve the same master as his, or Trull's kin. If they led one of Trull's mortal kin to sit on the throne, does he think they would behave in the same way as Kellenbed? Trull was quiet a few moments before asking why, if this throne was so vulnerable, hadn't they picked someone to sit on it? Onrack said to sit on the throne, one must be mortal. What mortal would they entrust with that responsibility? They hadn't even picked Kellenved, and anyways, it may soon not matter, for the Imus now have all been summoned, whether they are bound to the vow or not. A new mortal bonecaster has arisen in a far-off land. Trull asked if they wanted that bonecaster to sit the throne. He said no, they wanted to be set free from existence. Or that's what he thinks the bound would ask, or had already asked, but he doesn't feel that way anymore. Trull thought any freed from the vow may feel that way also, and that this new bonecaster was probably in trouble. Trull asked if he was able to resist the call from the bonecaster. Onrack said he was free to choose. Trull said it appeared to him that Onrack was already free, maybe not in the way the bonecaster may offer, however. Onrack said this was true. However, the alternative he represents is not available to those who are still held to the vow. Trull said to hope Monarch was not too resentful. Onrack said they would see. Monarch and the others appeared. Ibra raised his sword at Onrack. Trull put himself between them and said to hold on a minute. Onrack has information he needed to share. They needed to listen first, then they could decide what to do. Ibra halted and lowered his sword. Onrack looked at Monarch and could tell how pissed he was. Onrack knew he had a laundry list of crimes. Giving himself a new arm was the most recently added thing to the list, which was also one of the worst things he could do. Onrack told the news that the renegades wanted to put their mortal leader on the first throne, and that they traveled the path of chaos. He believed they would put a mortal Ticed Edur on the throne, so the new ruler of the throne would also rule the new bonecaster, the one who voiced the summons. Ibra faced Monarch, and Onrack could feel the tension. Onrack continued saying to inform Logros that he was bound to the Edur Trull Sengar. They are working together. Monarch rasped that Logros heard him, and it was accepted. Onrack asked who was guarding the throne. Monarch said, no one. Trull about pooped his pants, repeating the word, none. I guess there was none guarding it, not no one. Trull repeated the word none, back like he didn't believe it. Onrack asked if there were any Imus left on Quantali. Monarch called him Onrack the Broken and said no, this was unanticipated. Logros' army is on 7 cities. Onrack was irritated, and he had not felt that way in a long time, and asked Monarch why Logros had not marched in answer to the summons. Monarch said representatives had been sent, but the army held in anticipation of being needed. Onrack said none were able to be spared. Monarch said no, none were able to be spared. They were also the closest to the renegades. Onrack told Monarch he believed there were 6 renegades and 1 is a bonecaster, and while they may catch them, they were too few in number. Trull said to let him find a worthy weapon. He may end up facing one of his kin. Ibra asked what his weapon of choice was. Trull said a spear. He's decent with a bow as well, but for combat, he wanted a spear. Ibra said he would find one for him, as well as a bow, but he was curious why he didn't take a spear from the cache they were recently at. Why didn't he take one then? Trull said he wasn't a thief. Ibra told Onrack he had chosen well. Onrack asked if Logros has thought as to who the renegade bonecaster might be. Monok said Teneg Ilbe, but he had probably chosen a new name. Onrack asked if Logros was certain. He said everyone else was accounted for except for Kilava Onos. Onrack went into the history of Teneg and said he was a loyal bonecaster. Monok interrupted him and said until he failed against the Forkrul Assail in the Lateron Wars. Onrack said they chose to see failure as disloyalty. Teneg tried to succeed. He didn't want to fail. It wasn't by choice. And could he tell them when they had ever succeeded against the Forkrul Assail? He was screwed from the get-go, yet he still accepted what was asked of him, knowing full well he would be destroyed. These renegades are of their own making. Ibra said then they needed to deal with them. Onrack asked what happens if they failed. No one answered. Trull said they better get going. Monok said they would use the Tellan Warren. Logros gave permission for them to accompany. Trull said that was generous. Generous. Monok looked back at Onrack one last time and asked when he had repaired himself, where was the rest of the body? Onrack said he didn't know. The body had been taken away. Monok asked who destroyed it in that case. Onrack thought that was a good question. He spoke saying he didn't know and that something else made him uneasy. Monok asked what that was. Onrack said whoever it was had been cut clean in half.
Yay.
That was a pretty long one.
I would imagine that took a while to summarize too.
It did. I would say I spent probably a solid 5 hours, maybe more, summarizing this chapter.
Oh, damn. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, that was my side of things. You had your time too, and then you'll put in more time editing it. So
yeah, and that's all good. It's all good. I've gotten into a best practices. Yeah. Well, what do you got for us in this very somewhat straightforward but informational section?
Yeah, this, Onrack's talking about, the loss that he suffered, and he said it was not solitary. These types of losses never are. And I don't really know what to make of that. And just basically everything up in this section to this point, other than it's just like a fancy sex talk, right? Kind of going on before this. There's a lot here. Some of it kind of made a little bit of sense. A lot of it, I don't know how much really clicked for me. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe point those out because I feel like it's just yes, at the very beginning they're talking about sex. And then, they're able to get a little bit more of an understanding of Trull, who's younger, right? Virgin, not married, et cetera, right? So you kind of have this like experienced old man, right? And an inexperienced young man type of dynamic here is kind of the way that I interpret it based on what that first section was trying to talk about,
Sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think that I think that what he's trying to say that the loss is not solitary is that both people lost or lose in that situation because loss is not solitary as in alone or felt by one, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that it's a loss that both people feel, and it's because he committed a crime, right? He painted a very realistic nude cave porn, right? As Jan so eloquently pointed out, cave porn.
Now you got a title for that cave porn.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, Gardens of the Moon.
Yeah. Better be careful. You're going to develop a plot here before too long.
Gonna develop a what?
Plot.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, there's this huge floating dick in the sky. That is assailing many things.
Oh, man. What are we doing?
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Malazan community. Please forgive us. Please. Oh god. That's good stuff.
Taking her shot here.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. You can call it Dick Spawn.
Oh boy.
Or no. For going Gardens of the Moan, right? It's got to be Moan Spawn.
Insert the drum thing.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
We're done talking about porn. All right. The next thought, sir.
My next thought, when this turtle like finally sees them, and it starts like turning away and like crawling away. I just thought that was kind of interesting because they were like right next to it, they were touching it, and if they were like predators, that thing would be screwed, right? And now it just kind of strikes me as kind of funny that its instincts tell it to do this. It didn't feel it when they touched its shell. I guess I don't know if tortoises, turtles, if they can feel things when you touch their shell or not, but it just was kind of odd to me, and also a circular thing.
There you go. No, I don't think that turtles can feel when their shells are touched because it's just there's no nerve endings there. I'm not a reptile expert. I never really gave a shit about turtles. They were boring as fuck. I was more of a alligator, crocodile, snake type kid. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I would think they maybe would feel like a vibration if you like tapped on it hard enough or something. But if you just like touched it, yeah, I suppose you probably wouldn't feel it.
Yeah. If you would have been down and like tapped it, I'm sure that
Like if you're knocking on a door,
right. But if you just went down and just like brushed it, like petting a dog or something, I'm sure that like the turtle would not feel that. No.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, next thought here, sir.
This whole the ritual and the vow, and I guess I don't know how you felt, but I guess I don't remember ever feeling like these were two separate things. This was one of the confusing things for me here. One of the many confusing things, I guess.
Yeah.
But so like the vow and the ritual, like those are two separate things. Like, I guess, how are they different?
I mean, I feel like the ritual is something that you don't have a choice in, whereas a vow you do have a choice. You know what I mean? So, like, for example, Kilava defied the ritual and the vow, right? Whereas Tool partook in the ritual, maybe didn't vow, if that makes any sense. So I think like the ritual is just the immortal piece. Kilava is immortal for a different reason. The ritual provided the amass to become immortal. But the vow, I'm wondering, I don't know, it just says the ritual despite the stoppage of the vow.
Do we know what this vow really did? I guess I don't know if I remember.
I don't remember either. Yes, this chapter is confusing. There are definitely moments where I'm like, I don't know what that means. But
I was kind of counting on you.
Sorry.
I mean, Justin's gonna know all this. He knows all this stuff.
See, this is the part where like I should have read the chapter last night. I knew it. I should have read the chapter because maybe I would have picked something up there.
It's all good.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with the renegade, right? Like they are obviously part of the ritual, but they have defied the vow, right? Which is just the rules that govern the amass, right? They're renegades for a reason. Thus, they were defying the vow, maybe.
Okay. I'll go with it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next out here. He thought of all the bone casters among the Logros and which ones would be, quote, lost. He thought Kalava for sure, as she has always been. I just thought it was interesting the outlook we get on Kalava from another one of her kind, that they see her as lost. And maybe that's got something to do with how she's immortal in a different way then. I don't know.
Well, they see her as lost because she killed her family.
I suppose that makes sense too.
So, and in that section with where we learn of Onrack and his painting, it also says that being alone, being solitary is also a crime amongst the amass. how do you take that to the next level? Well, you kill your family, right?
And then you're alone.
Right. And now you really are an outcast. So,
Gotcha. We get mention of the later on wars, which made me think of like where Karsa's from, right?
yes.
So I thought that was interesting. And do you think like this Imus is a part of all the bones that Karsa was like walking through in the mountains in the Bone Pass or whatever it was called that maybe
Yes.
could be in there?
I do think so. I don't think he's in there. I think that what is they're saying is that he's one of the 6 renegades.
Hmm.
Because out of all of these bone casters mentioned, this is how I knew Teneg was one of the 6, is because it said that Teneg Ilbe, who the Logros sent to the Kron to help in the later on wars, which is Kars's area.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But also, it's kind of interesting because you remember in Deadhouse Gates when they're on the Solanda, right? And they're visited by, a mass looking for renegades, right?
Yeah.
I could have sworn it was the Kron Emass that were looking for these renegades.
I do not remember.
Because
Somebody could tell us if you're right on that. Maybe.
because now that I'm like putting these events together, the people or the mass that are on track of the renegades, like we didn't see them until this book, right? So are there potentially 2 sets of Emass looking for these renegades?
Maybe that would be
Because
interesting.
because it says that Logros sent to the Kron to help in the later on wars. So my guess is the Logros were on 7 cities, as it's always said. And I have a feeling that has something to do with Kellenbed. The Logros were stationed on 7 cities. The Kron were fighting the Fork Rule Sail in the later on wars, which to the Karza and his people, I think they call that the Spirit Wars or the Spiritual Wars or something like that. So I'm going to go with is because of what they are talking about at the end of the section about him failing against the Fork Rule of Sail, is that when that is the moment where him and maybe 6 others decide to, brainwash the Teblor, right? Like the Amass already called me a failure, so I might as well just go do my own thing now, So it almost kind of gives it a little bit of like you can almost forgive them a little bit, even though they're assholes. You can understand and you can empathize with that position, right? Like they clearly made a choice because they knew that if they went back, they would be ostracized, punished, right?
Sure.
And so
Not in a good
is
spot.
that's probably a fault of the Amass, right? Like
Sure.
they created that culture. All right, I'm taking over. Go ahead, go on.
You're good, man. Like I said, I was gonna be looking to you to help with some of the heavy lifting here. So that's all good, man. All good. See next thought here. Oh, I like when Onrack asked Trull if he knew about the nameless ones, and Trull's like, they were very successful. I like Trull's sense of humor.
Yeah, he was successful in never hearing about him. Yeah,
Right.
that was definitely some good times.
He just has like this dry sense of humor that I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing on here with Trull, he figures out that the Logros didn't want one of these nameless ones to be the mortal that sat on their throne. What was this terrible purpose that drove them? And before he answered, he wanted Onrak to, recognize terrible purpose could have a very different meaning for him, given what side he's on, his species, that type of thing. But
Yeah.
this is just one of the things, like, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know that I get it.
Well, I mean, we don't know much about the Azath, but the thing that we do know, or at least the most prominent thing to me, is that the Azath want or crave power, right? So if the Nameless Ones essentially they want to occupy the first throne, right? Well, then not only do they have control over the Amass, which again, are the world's police, right? Like they involve themselves in fucking everything. So you could say, no, stop that and just let it be. It's almost kind of like what Apsalar and Cutter are theorizing about what Kellenved wants to do with the thrones. This is potentially a motive for the Azath too, is to take up as much power from the world so nobody can use it. So maybe that's kind of what the Nameless Ones are up to. Maybe that's what they're after, right? I mean, we know that Icarium's father, Gothos, is chilling inside of Tremolor. So maybe they took him as because he's got a ton of power or something. I don't know. I mean, we don't know much about the Azath at all. Like it's probably one of the things that in 4 books has not been talked about very much.
No, not a lot. No.
So, but from what I can kind of summarize or theorize is that they want to take away the Amasa's ability to involve themselves in things or just to take the power of the throne, right? So no one else can have it. So maybe the Nameless Ones, kind of similar to maybe the Crippled God a little bit, and that they want to take power away.
Sure. Sorry, I'm not a lot of help here.
I'm theorizing, so I'm probably not helping either. I'm probably leading you in the exact opposite direction.
But you're leading me by the hand, and that's the important part.
There we go. Not to crocodile-infested waters.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, well, we'll both go together because I'm leading you. So,
next thought. Onrack's talking about the Nameless Ones that serve. They serve the Azath houses, and if a priest took over the throne, the Imus would be removed from the world. And I kind of thought, like, well, isn't that kind of what the Imus want? They want, like, to be released, like, they want to go to oblivion, right? So, like, why is this a bad thing?
I didn't catch that. That is interesting. Maybe it's as simple as removed and put somewhere else are completely different things. Like maybe they want to be done, but they want to join their spirits in whatever house they would go to when they die. And this would simply just vanquish them completely. Like they just cease to exist. Their spirits don't move on afterwards. I don't know. This is very interesting.
Well, I'm glad I provoked you with that then. Interesting.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Maybe if we don't find an answer to that, maybe that's another Erickson question.
Sure.
So, yeah, I don't know.
We go a little ways here before I get another thought, but they start talking about this new bone caster that's arisen in a far off land, and I assume that's Silver Fox, right?
Yes.
Trull asked if they wanted the bone caster to sit on the throne, and he said no, they want to be set free from existence.
Kind of going back to your previous thought.
Yeah. But I'm still, like, it still doesn't make sense to me, I guess. But, okay, so they say they want to be set free, but regardless of that, do you think Silver Fox would sit on the throne?
I think, yeah, she would. That would be the ideal situation for the Amass. But here's my question, is like they're talking about it as if the throne is open. From my understanding is that Kellenved still occupies that throne. Like just because he died, does that mean that like the throne is unoccupied now?
But he didn't die though, right? Like he just ascended.
Right. But I feel like
do you have to die to ascend?
That's what I'm under the assumption of, is that in order to ascend, you need to die.
I guess I felt I didn't get the feeling that you needed to. I mean, I don't know if that's right or not, but
I feel like it was in one of those earlier chapters with Cutter and his talks with Cotillion about ascendancy and stuff like that, where it was confusing. So maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of got the sense that like you needed to die in order to ascend, at least from like a mortal standpoint. To me, in my mind, the throne is still occupied, but then there has to be a reason, like that the 6 obviously are traveling to go to the first throne, right? Like, so that's kind of what Onrack is deducing based on these conversations that he's having with Trull is that this seems to be the motivation for the six. So Karza essentially helped them get to 7 cities, and then from there, they don't need his help because now they can go travel. I don't know. Yeah. So to me, it's like they're going after this throne, but yet to me, it's already occupied. So are they going to, is there a way to usurp the throne? But earlier it seemed like once you sat on the throne, like that was your power, blah, 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 blah. So, and I think, again, this is the beauty of Mr. Erickson is that there's so many scenarios, there's so many outcomes that it could be any one of them. And this is the subversion that he sinks you into. So
we have no choice but to continue reading.
Right. And who knows, maybe next chapter there'll be an answer.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I don't know. All right. So, okay, getting towards the end of the section here, but Trull wants a weapon. He says he might end up facing one of his kin. Do you think he'll end up fighting Lorik?
You're asking me if this is one of Trull's kins or one of Onrack's kins?
Trull. So
Okay.
he wants a weapon because he says he might end up fighting one of his kin. And I couldn't remember the guy, Lorik, though. Do you think he'll end up fighting Lorik?
Well, I mean, I guess that begs the question: is Lorik, who is Thierlin, is he akin to Trull Sengar?
I thought we knew he was an Edur.
Lorik is not an Edur. He is a Teistliozin. He is light.
No.
And Trull is shadow. They're related, so maybe. I don't know. It's never really been like cleared up to us if light, shadow, and dark are actually kin. They probably are. So you're probably right here, but I don't have anything like concurrent to say yes, they are kin or no, they are not. But for all intents and purposes, I'm going to continue they're related.
Okay.
A long roundabout way to say yes.
You're good. I like this where Ibra tells Onrack that he had chosen well when Trull says that he wasn't a thief. He didn't take a spear from, the pile of weapons he could have before. And I just kind of like that. It seems like maybe they're extending the olive branch a little bit here.
Yeah.
Trying to find some common ground.
Yeah. Kind of get a sense of like Trull's morality, right? And his code of honor or ethics, right? So that was cool to see. Makes you like him a little bit more.
Last thing here. So Onrack asked if Logros has any thought who the renegade bonecaster might be, and Mono right away has an answer. So there's a couple instances of this. Like, do you think that there's like some sort of telepathic connection or something between them?
Oh, for sure. I would agree. I would totally think that there's some way of talking. So that just begs the question, like, do these renegades just not answer to conversation, or does everybody hear it, or is it only directed at like cell phones, right? Where like each amass has their own phone number.
Yeah, I don't know. Just got him on speed dial.
Gotta call the big bad boss today. Yeah, for sure.
That's all I've got in this long section. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to talk about, or if you feel satisfied.
I feel satisfied. I really think that like the point is the first throne bit, like the Azath and their concerns of being obliviated or sent to oblivion, which almost seems like that's what they want anyway. But maybe again, what we know about the Azath is that like if we go back to Deadhouse Gates and Fiddler's, traversing through it, what is it, Messembre, the bear, he gets absorbed by the Azath. So therefore, so that's exactly what it is. So the Azath would house the spirits of the Amass, which is what they don't want. They want to be set free by someone of their own kind who's going to give them a proper burial. So that's what it is.
Gotcha.
It's funny how you have these thoughts, like, as you're thinking about them, so yes, that would be the difference, I think.
All right. I can go with that.
But yeah, no, I felt like for the most part it was pretty straightforward. Almost transitional, but with just spotty
A
pieces
lot.
in there. Yeah. Good chunks of
Okay.
info.
I'm ready to move on here if you are.
Yeah. The winding track had led up a boulder-strewn hillside. She could feel the scowl on her face. Pearl remained a few paces behind, cursing as rocks hit him from her boots, lodging them loose. She felt her scowl turn into a savage grin. His smooth exterior was starting to wear off, and Lostara wanted to start to make fun of him. But alongside that, there was a weird attraction. She felt too old to dream of perfection. She instead found a certain appeal for flaws, and Pearl had plenty of them. Pearl hated that he gave up leading, but this area was for Lostara as it belonged to her memories of the area. They approached the exposed temple floor where she had driven a bolt straight through Shaik's head. If it hadn't been for her bodyguards, especially the Toblakai, that day would have been an even greater triumph. Riding through the streets of Gijanispan with Shaik's head, thus ending the rebellion before it could begin. So many lives could have been saved that day. She cursed the Toblakai in her mind, as if she would have been able to return the head, they'd likely not be here in the present. Fellows and Paran would not have needed to cross all of seven cities. Coltane would still be alive, and Heim Fist Pormcrawl would have been sent back to the scene. All because of that damned Toblakai. She passed the large boulders they had hidden behind, and not 10 paces past, there was the remains of the fallen Redblade. Lostara stepped on the flagstones. Pearl arrived at her side, curiously looking around. She pointed to where Shaik was sitting. Pearl observes that her bodyguards didn't even bother with burying any of the bodies. Lostara questioned why they would. Pearl was stepping between pillars of an arched gate, and Lostara's heart started pounding in her chest as she saw the tiny form wrapped in cloth. Pearl knelt down and removed the cloth, revealing the cause of death. He asked Lostara if she was certain that this was Shaik. She nodded and explained that the Book of Dryjana has been delivered directly into her hands, from which it was prophesied that a rebirth would occur and in turn would trigger the whirlwind. Pearl asked her to describe these bodyguards of Shaik's. She said that they were a Toblakai and the one known as Leoman of the Flails, Shaik's most personal bodyguard. Pearl observed that they didn't even need the whirlwind or Shaik because the rebellion was well underway by the time Felazin arrived at this place. He wonders what occurred between the time of Shaik Elder's death and Felazin's arrival. He wondered if the bodyguards simply just waited. But waited for what? Lostara shrugged and suggested that they had waited for Shaik's rebirth. And perhaps the beauty of prophecies is that there's more than one way to fulfill that need. The fools simply waited. Pearl frowned and said that the rebirth did happen. The whirlwind rose, gave focus to provide a raging heart for the rebellion. It all happened, just as prophesied. Lostara watched him through half-closed lids, observing his moments, eye-fucking him. She told him to look at her body. Did it look like there was a rebirth here? She suggested that maybe Felazin stumbled upon all this before making her way onward. Pearl said that she was deliberately being vague, but he did say that she was quite right that nothing could have been reborn from this corpse. Only one thing could be derived from that info, and that is that the current Shaik is not the same person. And those bodyguards simply found a replacement, someone they could fit neatly into the role. The flexibility of prophecies she had noted a bit ago have served them well. Reborn, someone younger, as an old woman cannot lead an army into a new war. On top of that, it would be hard for an old woman to convince anyone that she had been reborn. Lostara says that she refuses the possibility, and she knows that he is thinking, but it's impossible. Pearl said that nothing else fits. Lostara said that she didn't care, because is that all mortals are? the victims of tortured irony to entertain an insane murder of gods? Pearl said that he liked that, and it was more of an exquisite irony than tortuous. He asked if Elzin wouldn't jump on that opportunity to become an instrument of vengeance against her sister. He says that there was little chance in this, and it was more a timely convergence of desires. Lostara said that they should leave and return to the adjunct. Pearl agrees, but says that the whirlwind stands before him, and he cannot use warns to get them out. They would have to walk through the whirlwind, through Raraku itself. Them being caught would prove fatal. Lostara asked if he was happy about all this. Pearl said that this was unfair, as he's satisfied that the mystery was solved, and their fate is complete. Lostara asked about the Talons. He replied that all things were converging nicely, and that will happen in due time. Lostara emphasized her thoughts about how happy he was. Pearl said that they were nearly done, but not before too long they would be enjoying each other's company, drinking wine, and recalling the adventures they had together. Sarcastically, she said that she couldn't wait. Pearl swung about and faced a whirlwind. He said that they would have to breach the whirlwind and its defenses undetected. He said that because she was of Pardue blood, that the whirlwind would not take heed of her. He explains that because he's 1/4 Tice Andy, that he would be discovered. Her breath caught at this admission. He looked back at her, surprised that she didn't know. He explained that his mother was from Driftavali, who was half-blood, since she left him with his father after he had been weaned. Lostara's imagination conjured up the scene of Pearl sucking at his mother's breast. She commented that he must have been a live birth. She smiled at his offended silence. I think that this was probably one of my favorite sections in this chapter. Actually, it was my favorite
really?
section. Yeah.
Interesting. I thought it would be your short one.
Oh, no, that's not my favorite. That's the funniest one, but that's not my favorite. So it's my favorite because we kind of get the other perspective from that part in Deadhouse Gates where Shaik Elder is killed, right? Like, we only get it from the perspective of Leomin and Tobakai as they fend off the Red Blades, right? So now we're kind of coming back to this same thing, and Lostara is seeing the scene that was left there and recounting her perspective to Pearl. At the very beginning, it's talking about how Pearl was a few paces back, and the boots, Lostara's boots, were dislodging rocks that were more or less rolling down the hill and hitting Pearl on his feet. And she gives him a savage grin, and I could just imagine that, and it made me like Lostara just a little bit more, because it's, I don't know, it's like funny a little bit. She's like starting to pick on him and make fun of him, you know. But then there's this part where she kind of like feels this weird attraction, and she is feeling like she's too old to dream of perfection. She instead found a certain appeal for flaws, and this was immediately a red flag for me, because if we recall, perfection is equal to the gods, flaws are equal to the crippled god. So you think that it's possible that sometime in the future, Lostara will end up working for or with the crippled god? Mainly because she aligns with the stance, and even the stance of the Seven, around, perfection and flaws.
Not thought about it. I had no idea. No thoughts, man. I don't know.
You don't think that based on this, you don't think that this could be some type of foreshadowing Lostara's future?
Maybe.
I mean, if she's more appealed to flaws than she is perfection, then that would tell me that whatever the crippled god is going to say to her is going to sound that much more than if a god were. So maybe this is signifying that she'll be recruited into his house.
Maybe.
He needs players for the role.
What is she going to fill?
I don't know. That's the part of like the deck of dragons I don't quite understand yet. But
Gotcha. Okay.
So there's this part where Lostara is thinking about how everything is hinging on the fact that she wasn't able to bring Shaik Elder's head into Gedanispan. She curses Karza in her mind because there's a series of events like Felazin would not have been crossed. He wouldn't have not crossed all of Seven Cities. Coltane would still be alive. High Fist Pormcrawl would have gotten his head cut off by Lucine or punished, whatever, because of his incompetency. And then she says, all because of that damned Tobakai. And I almost get the sense that Erickson is telling us something here. And is it possible that all of these parts, all of the aftermath of these decisions, are these the ghosts that are chained behind him? It's almost being set up to make Karza at fault for all of these things happening. But that would almost be outlandish. But it all comes back to his decision to stay with Shaik Elder. But we barely know what that looks like. Right? We don't know anything about his decision to stay with Shaik Elder. But yet, because he sat there and defended her, preventing Lostara from taking Shaik Elder's head, thus ending the rebellion. You know what I mean? Like if Lostara was able to, what Lostara is saying is that if she was able to take the head of Shaik and bring it into Gedanispan, the rebellion would have stopped at that point. So therefore, everything that would have followed after there, so everything that we've read up to this point would not have happened. And that's such a huge thing to make such a prominent section about, right? I just get the feeling that these are maybe what Karza's ghosts are, is that all of the blame is on him for whatever reason. I'm not articulating my thought right, but
I wonder, okay, so you say all this stuff didn't happen, then that just kind of opens the doors for maybe some other stuff that was worse could have happened. It's impossible to say, though, right? Because it's like, well, okay, if this stuff didn't happen, Coltane's still alive, all this other stuff. Well, maybe. Or maybe he just doesn't die because of, the way things went down. Maybe it just happens in some other way and it's worse. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's impossible to speculate on those types of things.
Yeah. It seems like a very purposeful point to almost hinge everything on Karza here. It doesn't seem like it's about Lostara taking the head. It's about pointing fault at Karza. That is so interesting to me, right? He's making it a point to say that, well, if this one event would have happened, nothing else that we've read up to this point would have followed. So therefore, it's the moment, I
always take that stuff with a grain of salt, just because if it didn't happen and you just don't know how all the dominoes would have fallen after that,
Oh, right.
In the other direction.
It's not about, I guess, again, I'm not articulating it well. It's interesting that he's using this moment to make Karza the hinge of everything. It's almost like I couldn't do this. It's like a projection, right? It's a narcissistic projection onto somebody. You stopped me from this big event because you were here. You know what I mean? It's not really Karza's fault, but because he was there,
he's getting the blame.
He's getting the blame, right? So it's almost kind of Erickson's almost making it seem that everything that did happen is Karza's fault. I'm not trying to say that if she was able to take the head to Gedanispan, that anything would be different. It would, but we don't know what that would be. I'm just saying that everything is pivoting on the fact that she wasn't able to cut off her head. And that everything that followed after that, the Felazin, the Coltane, Pormqual, all of those errors, right, are now pinned on Karza's shoulder. And so that is what's making me think that maybe those are part of the ghosts that are chained behind him. Maybe that's where Coltane went. Maybe that's where Sormo Nath went. You know what I mean?
But I wonder, you think... I wonder, if Karza would even buy into it. If somebody told him, hey, this is all your fault, he'd be like, piss off.
Wait, so in the last chapter, Adjunct Tavor asks Nil and Nether about the spirits. And remember, we were like, I was confused because they were saying that there wasn't very many to talk to or something like that. I wonder if they're following Karza. They're behind
Maybe.
Karza. The spirits of Raraku are going where Karza goes, and that's why there's not very many.
Could be.
Okay. All right, we'll move on. So this part where, Pearl steps between the pillars of an arched gate, and then Lostara's heart started pounding in her chest as she sees the body of Shaik. And is it possible that this was a temple, a building, or a ruined structure from the First Empire? Her describing that arched gate and then her heart pounding is maybe giving me a little red flags. And so it kind of made me think. So this is where Fellowson was chosen to be Shaik Reborn. But it's not actually Shaik Reborn. It's not her spirit inside of Fellowson. So if things in Raraku are cyclical, tying in a little bit of the Tano now, that would mean that Shaik Elder was reborn here to the previous Shaik, and so on and so forth.
Maybe.
Maybe.
You're just still not happy you took that pie.
Yeah, I think that there needs to be some recompense. We'll get to that. And then there's this part where the fool simply waited. And I remember in Deadhouse Gates, by the time Fellowson arrived, that Leomin and Karza were almost near death from hunger. So
Yeah.
it was kind of cool to have that tied back in. And then their conversation about the body, Shaik Elder, and I'm starting to think that I took an unnecessary pie. I think that we were both wrong, and both of us should have taken one pie. I was clearly wrong about the Book of Drajana, and you were wrong about Shaik being reborn, living.
Well, I don't know. Maybe if any of our vets want to clear it up for us, let us know what they think.
I feel like that's still probably spoiler territory, right? Because, I mean, again, this is Lostara and Pearl talking based upon what they see. But also, Fellows and Younger kind of pointed this out earlier, is that they're not the same Shaik. And again, I believe my headcanon is that Shaik is merely just a pawn. It doesn't matter who it is. There's no reborn. The whirlwind is just choosing, as they said here, someone with an angry heart.
I don't know what I can say, ma'am.
I want an apology, damn it.
No. I'm gonna be stubborn.
What? You still don't? I will take a pie that this is the right scenario.
What do you mean?
I will put a pie on the line that this is the correct canon. Is that the whirlwind is choosing, or that Shaik has not been reborn. Shaik Elder is not in Fellowson.
So what is then?
Nothing. It's the whirlwind.
Which is what?
Something else.
Hmm.
I don't think that we will know until the end of this book what or who the whirlwind is. I have my theories. I mean, based on the whole destruction, the Book of Drajana, I think that the Book of Drajana was written by an Emass because they have in Onrack's section. I mentioned this before. They talk about like rules of destruction or something like that. So
It's vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
I did think it was interesting how they were like, they kind of work things backwards and figure out, that Fellowson is the Shaik now.
Yeah. There's some cool reverse engineering there.
Yeah.
So I think this is kind of what makes me make this my favorite section. But they say that there was a little more chance as it was more just a timely convergence of desires. And it kind of makes me think that Felsen was led here, as she's a pawn in a vast scheme. And actually all that the Parans are, and I know that I've touched base on this, but if there's some similarities between light, dark, and shadow. That being kind of triumvirate, along with the Paran family. I feel like there's maybe some mirroring there, and that they're exactly where they're supposed to be because they're set up to be there. I think that, and I was thinking about this earlier. I don't think that I think Tavor will take out Felizan because Tavor is supposed to be Paran's shadow or Ganoza's shadow, right? So, like, if Ganoza is still alive, then that means that Tavor is still alive, which then leaves Felizan dead. Also, based upon the what you theorized all the way back in book 1.
It's interesting. Interesting just to like kind of have similar thoughts, but different, I guess, roads to get there.
Sure. And then lastly, which I didn't, Lostara makes this comment about Pearl must have been a live birth because she was imagining him suckling at his mother's breast. And at the time, on the 23rd, I had no clue what that meant or what that was supposed to represent. But then I was thinking about it a day later, and it's implying that their species used to lay eggs, right? So it's saying that his mother was a half-blood. So I would imagine that whatever the full blood of that half-blood is probably laid eggs. And that's how their spawn were born. I don't know, do the change them all lay eggs? I mean, reptiles, they lay eggs. That's the only thing that I could think of. I mean, dragons are also, I would consider reptilian. Maybe it's half dragon, half Tistandi.
Was it this? What the hell was I reading where they were talking about like mages being born? Oh, I think it was that vampire book. Never mind.
Oh. So yeah, it was just funny how like something that like totally caught me off guard, even while reading it was, and then a day later I'm like, he's insinuating that he wasn't born by an egg.
I would not have thought that either.
But yeah, those were all my thoughts on that section. So I'm good to go.
I got a shorter one here. They made their way down the trail towards where the whirlwind raged on, growing taller as they approached. They were short on food, but had plenty of water that came from a spring near the ruined temple. Lostara's boots were in tatters. Pearl's moccasins were pretty much in the same shape. Their clothes were not in good repair either due to their travel in the Thierlin Warren. Lostara looked like she felt, which was about 10 years older than she was, which made her all the more angry since Pearl looked and walked like he had no issue. She wanted to smack him with a club. Lostara asked what his plan was to evade detection from the whirlwind. He said he had a plan which may or may not work. She said that sounded eerily similar to all his other plans. What would her role be? Pearl said, Rashan, Thyr, Mianus, the perpetual war. The fragment of the warren in front of them was not fully realized by the goddess, which wasn't too surprising since she wasn't really anything more than a Zephyr spirit. However, Pearl did understand, at least better than her. Lostara asked if he was even capable of answering simply, Do your feet hurt, Pearl? Oh, the warrens of Makred, Rashan, and Amtos Falak, which arise all the aches below the knee. Pearl gave up and told her he intended to hide in her shadow. Lostara said she was already used to that, but the whirlwind wall is blocking out the sun pretty well. Pearl said he would just need to step carefully and hope she doesn't make any sudden movements. Lostara said in his company, she had never thought of making sudden movements. Pearl said that was well. However, there did seem to be certain chemistry between them, one that is anything but professional and seems to turn him on more when she insults him. Lostara said she wasn't flirting with him. She wanted to see him fall on his face and get his ass beat by the goddess, if only for her own satisfaction. Pearl said, Exactly. Lostara said if she was pouring boiling oil all over him, in between screams, he'd be telling her to get her head out from between his. She quickly shut her mouth, and smartly, Pearl said nothing. Lostara finally spoke, saying she wanted to kill him. Pearl said he knew. Lostara told him for now she would deal with him being in her shadow. Pearl thanked her and told her to walk slowly into the wall of sand and to make sure she closed her eyes. He didn't want her to ruin her pretty eyes. Interesting little section here.
Mm-hmm.
I like how Lostara is making fun of Pearl here. Just, he is always very wordy, not giving simple answers. And he's just like, he kind of talks in circles, right?
Yeah.
But I just thought it was funny when he's like, oh, the warrens of Makra and Rashan and Aptos flock. They cause all the pains below the knee. It's just silly.
That's the sense that I got, was that it was a humorous section. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And I didn't really get that the first time through. I don't feel like I read too fast, but sometimes, when I think I pick things up differently when I slow down and I'm summarizing things. This would be like another thing I didn't pick up reading the first time through, but Pearl gets turned on when she insults him. Pearl's just a masochist, I guess, huh?
Isn't that physical harm?
Splitting hairs, maybe, I guess. But yeah, you're probably right.
Okay.
So he just likes being verbally abused then? I don't know.
Along that line, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe him and Princess Sharn can get together.
Yeah. That'd be a good one. Yeah.
There you go.
And then the last thing here, just kind of further cementing the point that Pearl's kind of an odd guy. Lostara says she's not flirting. She just wants to see him fall on his face and get beat up really good, if only for her own satisfaction and pleasure. And Pearl's just like, I'm into that.
Yeah, he's all for that. Well, then maybe he is a masochist then.
Yeah, some of both. So
I'm surprised you didn't talk about the Zephyr spirit. I feel like that is probably the biggest thing in the section.
Okay. What do you got for it?
Well, what do you know of a Zephyr? What do you know what a Zephyr is?
I think it's another word for a horse in some sense.
It literally it means a soft, gentle breeze. Historically, a fine cotton gin ham. I don't know what a gin ham is.
I know what a rum ham is, thanks to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Lightweight, plain woven cotton cloth, typically checked in a white and bold color. So I don't think that it has anything to do with clothing, but they say that they're looking at Pearl said Rashan, Dear Minas, the perpetual war, the fragment of the warren in front of them, which we know is Corald Emerlane, was not fully realized by the goddess, which wasn't too surprising since she wasn't really anything more than a Zephyr spirit, a soft spirit. So it almost kind of seems like this whirlwind, whoever it is kind of controlled by like this minuscule spirit of some kind. Like there's no prominence. It almost makes it seem like it isn't a big name who's controlling the spirit or who's controlling the whirlwind or the fragment that they see in front of them. So I just thought that was interesting because it almost kind of gives it away.
What exactly?
It's nobody. The whirlwind, wherever it's coming from, is being commanded by like a nothing. They just kind of make it seem like it's not a big player. Like it's not really controlled by any one monumental, which maybe means that like my lady spite theory is null and void.
Well,
it almost seems like the whirlwind is a pawn, right? Like this isn't a rook. This isn't a bishop. It's not a queen. This is not a goddess. This is just someone doing their job. You know what I mean? Like the word Zephyr makes me think insubstantial. insignificant, like soft breeze. A whirlwind is like a mass of power, right? And then to say it was a soft breeze makes me think that it's maybe illusioned to be bigger than it actually is.
Do you think there's room for expansion?
What do you mean by that?
Like it could grow to become a bigger role, bigger player?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it definitely makes it seem like the whirlwind is just some spirit, some angry spirit.
Just punching above its weight or trying to?
No, I think that it's probably being told to do it by somebody.
Be interesting to see if that comes out to be correct.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to find out.
We will. Anything else you want to talk about there?
No, that was it.
All right. Well, let's get this one over with.
You ready for my doozy?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, D&J's epic quest first here. This is officially the shortest summary to date on our podcast.
One sentence.
2 sentences. I added another one. Yeah. To make the story flow a little bit better.
Gotcha.
The last section.
Fair.
Section 5 here. Lostara and Pearl step through the whirlwind. Pearl and Lostara fuck on the plains in Bedrock Abraku. They tear each other's clothes off. Yay. That's it. I don't have any thoughts.
Okay.
So we can move on.
Do you think Pearl was satisfied?
I don't know. Those rocks got to be real hot, so maybe.
It'll be interesting when we come back around to them in the story. Whenever that is, in the next couple chapters or whatever. But
do you think there'll be another short section where they're still going?
No, but I wonder. I do kind of wonder. Like Pearl will be like, if he'll be like beat up and like happy about it. I don't know how to like word it. I guess, but like
he'll be thoroughly abused.
Yeah.
He'll be denigrated.
Maybe. I don't know.
Bringing that word back in. All right.
This, I think this was my favorite section.
It was a good section. I like this section.
It was interesting. All right. A short distance away, darkness fell over Kalam and woke him, and he was coated in sweat. His dream still in his mind, even if he didn't really understand it. But that song, again, seeming to grab the world by the throat. His body ached as he slowly sat up. Being stuffed into a small space wasn't ideal for sleeping. He thought about the voice within the song. It was familiar, but strange, like a friend who had never sang before. These voices seemed to give voice to war. He took a drink of water and gathered his things, and finally started to settle himself down. He didn't think the whirlwind goddess would detect him as long as he stayed to the shadows. And he knew that nighttime was basically one giant shadow, so as long as he hid well during the day, he thought he could get into the Sheikh's camp undiscovered. He grabbed his pack and left. He jogged through the depression that held petrified ships. The whirlwind had lifted Raraku sands and revealed its prehistory, long-lost civilizations that had only known darkness for millennia. It disturbed him a little bit and reminded him of his dreams and that damn song in his head. The air was nearly still, and 200 paces ahead, land started to rise. Kalam looked up ahead at the ridge and froze when he saw soldiers, and he drew his long knives. Soldiers were armored and looking down as they helped their wounded. Kalam figured there was 600 or so of them. He saw a standard raised, a human rib cage bound by leather strips and 2 skulls. They marched in silence. Kalam, in his mind, said they were ghosts. Kalam walked up the slope. When he got to the top, the soldiers looked like flesh and blood. One spoke, saying, "He walks up from the sea." Kalam could only stare. It was an unknown language, yet he understood it, and when he looked behind him, the depression he rose from was filled with water. 5 ships were in that water. 3 of them burned. One of the 2 remaining was quickly sinking, while the other one showed no signs of life. He heard the soldiers speak. A soldier. A killer. There are too many specters on this road, friends. Are we not haunted enough? Aye, Decembelicus throws endless legions at us, and no matter how many we slaughter, the Emperor finds more. Another spoke and said, 5 of the 7 protectors are no more. That had to mean something, and the 6th will not recover now that they have banished the black beast itself. The one named Kulsan spoke, saying, if what the nameless one said was true, he was cut off. The other said that he didn't understand. Are they not marching from the city victorious? The conversation was starting to fade as these 2 soldiers walked away from Kalam, but he heard the reply. Then why is our road lined with ghosts, ethereal? Kalam thought to himself, more importantly, why was his? As he stepped across the road, he saw a tall figure in faded orange robes, one fleshless hand gripping an ivory staff, which he leaned on as if it were the only thing holding him up. It told Kalam to listen to them and called him the spirit from the future. The ghost soldiers had begun to sing. Kalam started sweating. He had heard this song before. Kalam called for the Tano spirit walker to explain this. The figure seemed to be surprised being called spirit walker and asked if this was a name he would acquire. Was it an honorific title or a curse? Kalam didn't understand either. The figure said he was not a priest. He is Tano, the 11th and last seneschal of Yarraganton, banished by the first emperor for his treasonous alliance with the Nameless Ones. Did Kalam know what he would do? Would any of them have guessed? 7 protectors indeed, but far more than that. The spirit started to walk in the road. He said he gave them a song to mark their last battle. At least he did that. Kalam watched the figure disappear. The sea was gone and the basin was dry once more. Kalam didn't understand why he sees these things. He was fairly certain he wasn't dead, but it's possible he may soon be. Maybe they were death visions. He had heard of such things, but he didn't really believe them. He crossed over the road and continued his journey. Soon he heard horses. He sprinted for cover and found some sunken stairs that used to lead to a basement of an old building. The first rider appeared was Pardu. 5 more eventually appeared, and the last one being a shaman who drew out a long bone and began waving it around overhead. He sniffed the air. Kalam quietly drew his knives, and the shaman growled some words and got off his horse, twisting his ankle in the process. The shaman had begun some sort of ritual, and Kalam didn't think they were part of the Apocalypse army. He put his blades away and watched. As the shaman continued the ritual, an acrid smell rose from the circle, and what happened next, Kalam didn't know if it was intended or not, as darkness seemed to explode and screams ripped into the air. 2 massive beasts appeared and attacked the Pardu. Only a slight shimmer on their hides betrayed their presence as they moved blindingly fast, ripping apart the warriors. One closed in on the shaman and bit his head off. Kalam realized these were hounds. The headless body of the shaman dropped to the ground with a thud. The other hounds began eating the corpses. He came to the conclusion that these were not hounds of shadow. They were bigger, more like a bear than dog. They showed no fear and were incredibly confident, and the sight of them made Kalam uneasy. He slowed his heart, waiting for them to leave, as he had no other choice, but the beasts seemed to be in no hurry. One lifted its head and sniffed while the others continued to eat. It was staring right at where Kalam was and came at him fast. He ran up the stairs, digging into his pockets and pulled out some smoky diamonds from his own personal stash, not Poost's. He tugged at his whistle as the hound skidded on the floor, its legs trying to gain traction. He put the diamonds between him and the hound and blew the whistle as hard as he could. 5 Aslan demons appeared, and 3 of them immediately closed on the nearest hound, while the other 2 flanked Kalam and then took off towards a hound in the street. As much as Kalam wanted to watch the fight, he took off instead. In his mind, he apologized to Shadowthrone and thought one of the demons should last long enough to escape, in which case he would be informed of a new menace loosed on the world. And if there was 2 of them, then there are probably more. Kalam ran through the night until the sounds behind him vanished.
Woot woot.
Yeah, that was an interesting section, and I had a couple thoughts here, and then it kind of turns into just more pretty straightforward. But
Mm-hmm.
this part, where Kalam is walking up out of the basin or sea, whatever it is, I don't really know what to make of that, but it is just interesting. Is Kalam the ghost or not? Are these other soldiers the ghosts? It's just like both are taking place simultaneously. And I thought it was really interesting. I don't really know what to make of it, though. I don't know if you had any thoughts or maybe you felt similarly.
Well, I think it has something to do with the Tano Spirit Walker. That what is happening is that, yes, he's seeing something from the past, but these guys are also seeing something from the future, if that makes sense. So, like, they're interpreting him as a ghost from the past. So it's this weird
From the
cyclical
future.
thing, right? Yeah. So the past is seeing the future, but is interpreting it as the past. But Kalam is seeing the past. So they're
It's
seeing
just
each
weird
other
that
as ghosts.
it's just weird that both of those things like existing and happening simultaneously.
Right.
It was really cool to read, and I just like the visual I got out of it.
Yeah, I want more of that for sure. So hopefully there is more.
I guess I don't know, like of more of what, I guess.
Oh, more of these types of like death visions, I guess, as Kalam said it. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean? Yeah.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I don't know if we'll get more or not.
It seems to me that almost like a subliminal theme, especially with the Tano stuff, is that there's a lesson that hasn't been learned. So therefore, history repeats itself. Cyclical, right? What that
Yeah.
lesson is, all I can kind of disseminate is stuff that we could talk about as you go through your stuff.
All right. Um, this name Decimbalakis, I know we've had that come up before, but I don't really remember where.
He's the emperor of the First Empire. He was the one who originally sat on the throne.
Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, from what, if I'm recollecting correct, he's the leader of the Emass, the human Emass.
I don't know if that really helps me, but I just knew the name sounded familiar. So
I guess we'll go on because
sure.
just keep that in mind as you go on. Is that he's the emperor of the Emass, the human Emass.
Sure.
Okay.
7 protectors. Like we just get these like this title just like dropped, and I'm like, well, I wonder what the hell these are.
Well, they're the 7 holy cities or whatever. Remember each the Faladad or whatever they're called, the 7 of Raraku. Oh my god, I'm forgetting this. We read a lot of it in Dead House Gates.
Oh, I didn't even think that. I didn't make that connection.
Yes, I'm assuming it has something. So,
But well, are you sure? Because then we get that the wizard dude. He's from Yarraganton or whatever the hell the name was.
right, which is old. That's what 7 cities used to be named.
I didn't think we'd heard that name before.
Yes, in Gardens of the Moon.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they were talking about how 7 cities used to be called Giganton, and that was literally it. That's all we got.
Huh. Okay. I don't remember that at all. But that was also like 3 years ago.
Right, exactly. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's where we heard it before.
Okay. Well,
Or it might have even been early Dead House Gates, too.
well, I guess we'll take it until we either read or hear otherwise.
Right.
And then they talk about how they banished the black beast itself. What the heck is that? What's this beast?
I have a feeling it's the Hounds of Darkness.
But this is singular, unless I just didn't summarize it right.
Maybe. But, well, I guess we know that the Amass were good friends with the Beast Throne, right? So maybe it's some type of, I don't know. I don't know.
Just this section provided a lot of like mystery here. I felt like
Yeah, but it's mystery because he's introducing it for the first time. Well, not for the first time, but you know what I mean. Like he's elaborating without giving away.
And then we get this dude that Kalam sees with the wizard staff. And just the way this dude was described, I'm like, this sounds like death personified. Why is he wearing orange? I don't know. It's just the color that he picked, I guess. But like, he's tall, he's robed, and you see a fleshless hand, like a skeletal hand. It sounds like death to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. But I'm sure the orange is probably so that they fade into the background. Or, would imagine that this is a very orangish type environment.
Oh, with the desert and all.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Sure.
Have you figured out who these soldiers are?
No. At first, I was thinking, like, when they were talking about the standard, I was like, before, like, we got the part that it was like, Kalam saw them as ghosts. I'm like, oh, are these the bone hunters? Do they have, like, did they make a flag on the way here or something? And then once we got the reveal that they were like ghosts, I kind of forgot about that and gave up on that. So I guess I don't really know who they are.
So basically, what's happening is these are they're Tano. I don't know if they're necessarily spirit walkers, but so basically, what's happening here is we've got soldiers walking away from a battle against Decemblicus, the Emperor of the First Throne. So basically, the Amass and the Nameless Ones are fighting.
Okay.
If you want to call it that. And I think I said or mentioned that Tano and the Nameless Ones were like the same thing. And I'm starting to get more of that sense here. So basically you've got the Amass fighting the Nameless Ones, right? And we know from Onrack and Trull section that they didn't want a Nameless One to take the first throne. So this would explain kind of their history, right? Is they seem to have a history of fighting.
Gotcha. I guess, I mean, I picked up that they must be Tano, but when you were asking who they were, I was thinking like more like as like a unit or something. Because yeah, he's like, oh, I gave them a song. At least I did that.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting when Kalam calls him a spirit walker and he's like, whoa, hold on. Like, what is that? Is that a title I earn or is it a curse? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I mean, there's definitely some parts that I can make out, but I think that its purpose is to serve as just a little bit of information, just giving us a little bit more detail.
Yeah, and then the whole like scrap he gets into with the hounds was very fast paced, and then where he unleashes the Aslan demons. That was pretty cool. I didn't really have any thoughts on it, but it was just hectic.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I mean, these Pardue mage dude is doing a ritual. So is he calling upon the Hounds of Darkness? Or is that like the ritual gone wrong?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Like, are they able to sense that the Hounds of Darkness are free? Which this is what makes me think Black Beast that they mentioned earlier. Like, were the Hounds of Darkness used in the annihilation of the Nameless Ones? Like,
Maybe.
do the Amass and the Tistandi like partner up? And the Nameless Ones somehow found a way to banish the Black Beast? Maybe, again, maybe the Hounds of Darkness are soul taken. Maybe there was, or De-Iver, sorry, maybe there was all of them in just one big form. And now they've split up into, maybe that's how De-Ivers were born. The Nameless One took a big giant Hound of Darkness and broke it into 7.
I thought we got this. I thought we already learned how they were formed. I don't know. I don't remember details specifically, but I thought we got a reveal on that.
The Hounds of Shadow or the Hounds of Darkness?
On divers.
Yeah, from Otateril or something.
Okay.
So maybe the Nameless Ones fought the Hound of Darkness, the Black Beast, with a new material that they have discovered, Ototerol. And in doing so, they created smaller versions. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
Go anywhere.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I got here. Unless you got anything else you want to add on here, we take your last section here.
I did not. It's weird having you finish the chapter. I feel like I always start and end it.
I feel like it's been that way quite a bit.
Yeah. All right. Section 7 here. It was an evening for surprises. In Jidanispan, at a splendid-looking kiosk, a light meal was being shared by a Kalefa merchant and one of his client's prized wife. In Irliton, there was a gathering of flesh traders and murderers. They were plotting the betrayal of a Malazan collaborator who had secretly invited Admiral Nock and his avenging Malazan fleet. A collaborator who, as it turned out, would awaken the next morning healthy, no longer facing assassination. On the coastal trail 60 miles from Irliton, the stillness of the night would be broken by horrified screams. At the distant, inaudible whistle, countless smoky diamonds that had been sold from a merchant in Jidanispan. Aslan demons rose from the dust long before they were supposed to. It worked out well anyway because there were moments of solitude needed before their appointed tasks. It was essential that the Aslan demons were not seen, which made silencing every witness a pleasure. For the demons that appeared in the ruins of Raraku to face two creatures that were very nearly lost to the Aslan's race memory, the moments of their arrival were problematic. The hounds were not inclined to give up their territory. The fight was fierce and took a long time to conclude. The 5 Aslan demons were eventually driven off, battered and broken, eager to find shadows to stop and lick their wounds. In the realm of shadow, a certain god sat motionless on his insubstantial throne, recovering from the shock, his mind racing. So, shorty, one of the first things that called my attention was this collaborator who woke up healthy and no longer facing assassination. I'm assuming some type of sorcery to heal himself from ailments in exchange for giving up the location of these flesh traders and murderers to Admiral Nock and the Malazans. I'm guessing that they are part of the rebellion, just not within Shaik's camp.
This whole section didn't make any sense to me. I didn't know what the hell was happening. It's confusing to me.
Okay. I can't distinctly say. I think it's just I think what it's accentuating is that it's just telling a story about in Jidanispan. The guy, I'm assuming that Kalam sold the diamonds to, is having a meal with one of his prize client's wife, right? But then outside of Irliton was a gathering of flesh traders, blah, blah, blah. So I'm guessing that it has something to do with these diamonds being sold, and they've now made their way from Jidanispan to Irliton. And then when Kalam blew the whistle to wake up, remember how you're supposed to blow it directly at it and like soft?
To do one?
Yeah. So he unintentionally woke up all of the demons that he has.
No, he intentionally woke them up.
No.
I think he wanted to wake them all up.
Maybe.
That was what I took.
Okay. I just feel like it's a whoopsie because he's trying to get away from the hounds, so he's using the Aslan demons to fight so he can make his escape. So yes. I think that when he blew the whistle, he was intending for those 5 to wake up, not all of them.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, okay. Because it does say that solitude was needed before their appointed tasks, and that the Aslan demons rose from the dust long before they were supposed to.
He wanted to wake up the ones he had in front of him. He didn't know he was waking up the ones wherever. Gotcha.
Correct.
Okay.
And thus, this like weird, estranged section, right? So we're basically kind of taken to these areas where there's a small chain of events.
Gotcha. Understand.
Yeah, I guess the last thing that I had was it seems like Amanus or Shadowthrone is a little concerned at the moment because I would imagine that the Hounds of Darkness being back in the fold give him cause for worry because I would imagine up until now the Hounds of Darkness have been like trapped, right? And Onrack set these guys free.
Oops.
Whoopsies. But yeah, that's all I had for that section. It was fun. It was interesting. It took me a while to understand what was happening, but I think I got it.
Well, we will wrap this up then.
Yeah.
A mast snapped overhead and thudded onto the deck, shaking the entire boat. Cutter called out to Apsalar. She said she was here. Their voices echoed. The walls and ceiling were close, so they had landed in a chamber. Cutter said so much for being subtle, and he said he had a lantern in his pack and to give him a moment. Apsalar said she wasn't going anywhere. The way she spoke gave Cutter chills. He found the lantern and his fire-starting kit and got them light. Shining the light, he found Apsalar still by the damaged tiller. In the low light, she looked more like a ghost. She said she saw a doorway beyond. Cutter said at least they weren't in a tomb. It was more like a storage room, and it smelled of sand and dust. He said they should explore. They found a bunch of Baccarala hanging above the door, so Apsalar knew they were back in 7 cities. Cutter said he knew and was disappointed as they had spent most of last year dragging their sorry asses across that wasteland, and now they're back where they started. Apsalar called him Crocus and said, "That is how it appears to be. Does he enjoy being a god's plaything?" Crocus didn't see a point in answering her question. He looked back through the door and asked if she was coming. She shrugged in the darkness and made her way forward. The hallway was straight for 20 paces, then twisted to the right, and the floor was uneven. It led to a ramp that went up, and at the bottom of the stair was Iskerl Poost, who called out to Crocus and said he, or Crocus, had missed him, hadn't he? Poost continued talking to himself, saying he should soothe both of them, welcome them, and a warm embrace, but never mind the extremity of what lay before them in the days and nights ahead. Oh, and she looks like she will be useful, but she doesn't look excited to help. He then said, "Welcome, friends." Cutter called him a weasel and said he didn't have time for any of this shit. Poost, of course, said of course he did. There is so much yet to do, and they have so much time to do it all. Isn't it nice to not have to rush for once? Cutter asked what Cotillion wanted of them. Poost said how should he know what Cotillion wants of him? Still speaking out loud, he wondered if he believed him. Cutter, sick of Poost's crap, simply said no. Poost asked if he had lost his mind, and if he had, his wife may have found it. She was always cleaning, or at least he thinks that's what she is doing. However, she refuses to ever touch the little gifts his Bocarala children leave behind, and now he's used to the smell. Poost tried to get himself back on track, but failed, asking if he and Apsalar should flirt. That would make his wife mad. Apsalar said she would rather flirt with the Bocarala. Poost said there's plenty to choose from, and he's not the jealous type. Apsalar sighed and said maybe his wife would be a better host. In his mind, Cutter doubted it.
Oh, it's always good when Poost is around. Such a funny dude.
Yeah, he's something. Like, oh, do you want to flirt? I don't think that's ever a question you just ask. Like, do you want to flirt? You just like, for better or worse, I think you just attempt it, right?
Yeah, but I feel like Poost just speaks what's on his mind as it's going through his mind without ever thinking about. Yeah, so
yeah. I didn't really have anything here. We're just, they're back on 7 cities. I did feel like some of, and not even just with like Apsalar and Cutter or Crocus. I thought it was, well, sidetracking. I thought it was weird we get both of his names here.
Do you think there's any significance to that?
I don't know. I'm not sure. There could be, but I don't know what it would be.
Do you think it's because I don't know about you, but I almost associate Cutter to like a more mature Crocus, and I almost associate Crocus to the immature Crocus, the angsty Crocus that we see in Dead House Gates and Gardens of the Moon. So I'm wondering, because they're back, if maybe that's how Apsalar and Poost are viewing him too. Again, kind of going back to the cyclical stuff.
I haven't really seen him as being immature, I guess, or I haven't felt that way. It in just in this small section.
No, absolutely, but and I think it's just one of those things where I don't know, just like the environment brings out. I don't know. Yeah.
I kind of sidetracked myself, but I felt like not even in like this section, but in a couple of the other sections in this chapter, like things just ended very abruptly or transitioned abruptly to another scene, which just seemed weird because I haven't really felt like that in this book yet.
Can you go more in depth with that, like from last scene to this, or what? Last section to this section?
Well, just like where they were at before, where Apsalar and Cutter were, and now they're just like here they are.
At the end of the first section, where they were engulfed by shadow, and then they heard a loud thump.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
Yeah, I would imagine that the transition is they're on the sea, the shadows engulf them, and then they at the very end of that first section they land in Raraku, and that's what the thump is.
But it just seemed very abrupt to me. And then I think I thought I had an example of it in my section somewhere too, but I'm not remembering exactly where right now.
Gotcha.
I'm just scrolling through quick. I don't really have anything else on that section. I don't know. It was.
I didn't have anything. I mean, they're back in Raraku. They're in Poos Temple or whatever. It's not an environment we're not used to at this point. So we've seen plenty of Poos with Akarium and Mappo, Kalam, even in this book where they heal him after the Enkaral debacle. So yeah, we're familiar with Poos. So there isn't anything that is jarring that needs our attention.
Yeah, I'm kind of ready to be done with this chapter just because I struggled with this one. It was tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely ready to move on.
Yeah. A lot of new and old information.
Yes. And just some cool stuff. Like, yeah, the whole Kalam deal I liked a lot. That was neat. Yeah, that was probably my favorite part.
Yeah, Pearl and Lostara's recount of what happened, thus kind of ending their little quest, right? But it's funny because everyone has converged into Seven Cities.
Getting the gang back together.
Yep. So I would imagine that Kalam and Fiddler are going to meet up somewhere in the next few chapters. I would imagine that even I'm doing it. Cutter and Apsalar are, I don't know. Like maybe Fiddler and Kalam come back to Poost, and Cutter and Apsalar are there, and then they journey off together. I don't know. Or they join up with the 14th Army. Yeah, hard to say. Where do you think we're gonna go in this next chapter? You think we're gonna go back to Karza, or do you think we're gonna go back to Shaik's camp? Because that was chapter 18.
I probably Shaik's camp. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I don't know if I just looked. The next chapter is about 40 pages, so I mean, we might get a few different things in that.
Oh, I would like to see Karza. That would be really cool. But maybe we won't see him.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's hard to say.
But yeah, dude. Okay, well, another 3-hour episode, at least uncut. So that's good stuff.
Another one under the belt, another chapter closer to finishing, and we'll move on and read on.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, it's weird being chapter 21. So probably going to go read.
I'll probably start. I'm going to make some lunch. Kelly's out to lunch with her mom, so I'll probably make something to eat and read till she gets back, and then we'll see how far I get.
Nice. Well, let me know how it goes, and I'll do the same. And yeah, it'll feel weird having read, being on chapter 22 at page 845, knowing there's only like 150-ish pages left to go.
So we might have some little bit longer chapters here. We'll see. Well,
think so?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We shall see.
We shall
but
see.
The end is within grasp here, so it's going to be, I think these will be probably some exciting chapters, tying things up, starting to tie things up.
Yep. So it looks like chapter 25 is on page 922.
Is that the last chapter?
So that might be I thought there were 26, but I could be wrong. Yes, there are 26.
Because I was going to say, if this is over 1,000 pages, we have another big freaking chapter. If that was the case.
Yeah, so chapter 26 is probably about 60 pages.
Well, we'll deal with it when we get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. The epilogue is at 1013. Chapter 26 is at 971. So, yeah, a little over 40. No biggie.
Nothing we haven't done before.
I mean, we've done longer.
True.
All right, sir.
Enjoy your reading, and yeah, I'll let you know what I think with however far I get.
Sounds
Take
good,
it easy,
dude.
man. Have a good Sunday. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, you do the same.
Bye.
Bye.
DMJ's Epic Quest. DMJ's Epic Quest. DMJ's CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest.